11th, and the meeting is being broadcast through Milford Television. If anyone would like to obtain a copy of tonight's meeting, please contact a member of the school committee or the administration. Our first order of business tonight is the approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from our meeting held on December 21st? Motion from Scott, seconded by John. All those in favor? All in favor. Our next order of business is announcements, correspondence, and distributions. Does anyone have any announcements or correspondence? Joe?
Yeah, I'd like to just let everyone know that the Milford High School Global Citizenship Program presents Italian-American baseball. I believe it's a short film that will be held in the auditorium January 27th at 4 o'clock. It's a film about award-winning Robert, Italian last name guy, celebrates Italian-American heroes in American baseball. I would have killed his last name, that's why.
No. Smart move. Any other announcements or correspondence?
I've got three, Mr. Chairman. The first one is I just want to remind the public that the school start time review committee, we're looking for members of the public to participate in that, and the deadline is tomorrow, which is Friday, January 12th. Secondly, we are hosting a social emotional learning and anti-bullying presentation on February 7th at 7 p.m. in the Milford High School auditorium, and we'll share information on the social emotional learning programs across the Milford Public Schools as well as the anti-bullying efforts.
Chairman, if I may, just a quick question on that, Kevin, with when we're looking for community members for the school start time committee, if we do not receive enough community participation on that, would we look to extend the deadline, or would we just?
We've actually received a lot of.
Okay, so we're not.
Yeah,
we're not short members.
I just wanted to make one more announcement to give everybody an opportunity.
My other ask then would just be if we can put it on our Facebook page.
Yep.
Just get it out through social media
Absolutely.
too, just to make one last opportunity.
Absolutely. There's been a lot of interest though.
I have no doubt.
The last one is we also have Jessica Minahan, who is a nationally renowned speaker. She's a board-certified behavior analyst, an author, a special educator, is going to speak on anxiety, and that's being sponsored by the MPAC, and that's on February 8th at 6 p.m. at the Stacy Middle School auditorium. And she's actually, if you haven't had an opportunity to see her speak, she's an awesome speaker, very engaging, and really captures what it's like for a child or even an adult to be living with anxiety. And I highly recommend it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Kevin, if I may, could you just email those dates out to us?
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
And just have a couple other announcements. One is from Shining Star from the preschool. Registration for Shining Star is now available for pickup. All the registration days will be taking place at Shining Star. The registration for current students is February 1st and 2nd, and registration for new incoming students it will be March 15th and 16th. And then we also have registration for kindergarten. The kindergarten registration night is going to be here at Milford High School on Tuesday, February 27th. There's a information presentation from 6 to 7:30. And lastly, at the last meeting, we had a number of students in from the music program to be recognized, and there was an oversight on our part when we made the announcement. So we announced that there were 7 students who received an all-state, but there were also 13 students that made the senior district ensemble. So I just want to recognize those 13 students: Justice Bowman, Tadiwa Chitongo, Jacob Diaz, Emily Fry, Matthew Hildebrand, Allie Kelly, Charles Latinsky, Madeline Villares, Gianni Pano, John Probert, Ailet Tabak, Zoe Tillman, and Jessica Vachon. So congratulations to those students for making it to the senior district ensemble. All right, and I'm going to change the order of the agenda slightly. I'm going to have we're going to do the recognition of the girls softball, and then we'll circle back for invitation to speak after that. So do you want to bring the girls on up? So thanks for coming out.
The two captains are side to sit. We're trying to compete.
Yeah. So we have Steve DeVito and Brett Crosby, right?
Yep.
How you doing, Brett?
Good. How are you?
Good. So thanks for coming in. This is a long time coming. I wish we could have had you in sooner. Congratulations on the state championship. The softball program's has brought a lot of pride to the community of Milford, and Really proud of everything you've accomplished, not only on the field, but off the field, and we wanted to have you in to recognize some of your accomplishments. So, Steve, do you want to kind of give us a high-level overview of the season?
Yeah, unfortunately, Tim Walsh, our assistant coach, couldn't be here. He was at a zoning board meeting. A couple of the girls couldn't be here as well due to prior commitments. But this was just a fun group to coach, fun group to be around. Losing the first game, obviously in Taunton, wasn't the way we wanted to start off, but finished on that high note, winning 25 in a row and winning the state championship. So, it's just a lot of hard work from these girls. They're a great group of girls, both on the softball field, in the community, and in the classroom as well. They're class acts. It makes my job and Tim's job and Brett's job a heck of a lot easier when you have a great group of student athletes like this that really focus on what they need to focus on, and don't let the extracurricular, the extra noise, or the outside noise interfere with what their goal is. And their goal is pretty obvious what's in front of them here tonight. They were honored by the Boston Red Sox with this large trophy, and the trophy on the far side next to Allie is from the Boston Globe, final rank of #1 in the state. So it was just a great season, a great team, and it was a joy to be around. And just echo what you said, that they definitely made a lot of people proud. I know their families are very proud of them, so are we.
Great. Yeah, any questions or comments? No?
Congratulations, first off. To Mr. DeVito's point, I say that it's not only on the softball field, it's what you bring to the district, it's what you bring to the community, and your leadership style. Other students will look up to you, try to model after you. I used to say to my son all the time, do you think coach is teaching you the game of football or the game of basketball or the game of baseball? Coach is teaching you the game of life. And you're going to get knocked down, and you got to get up, and you got to dust yourself off. And to Steve's point is that you lost the first game, and what did you do? You rallied around, came back, and you ended up winning the state. That's what it's about, and it's the game of life. So great job, congratulations, and thank you for doing what you do for our district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman. So, congratulations, ladies. Thank you for coming and letting us, giving us the opportunity to congratulate you. And as I said to Coach DeVito when he walked in, I said, "You guys keep this up. We're going to need a bigger table when you guys come forward." So, just a couple of quick questions just for you, ladies. So, how many of you are? What kind of are the grades? And if you want to just go through as we do with other teams, just kind of introduce yourself, what your name is, what your grade is, how long you've been playing softball.
We've got a couple graduates here too, right, Steve?
Yeah, so Allie and Caitlin both graduated last year, and
Okay.
the rest
So
of them-
13th grade, got it.
Yeah, we're in college, so.
Should I start or?
Yeah, go
Okay. I'm Caitlin DeCapua. I'm now a freshman in college at Trinity, and I've been playing since I was 5 years old.
Are you still playing at Trinity?
I hope so. I'm gonna try out.
That's right. It's not in season yet.
Yeah.
Can't play in the snow.
I'm Allie Atherton. I'm a freshman at Southern New Hampshire, and I've been playing softball with Caitlin since we were both 5 years old, so forever.
Excellent. And are you playing at school as well?
Yeah.
Or intending to?
Yeah.
Great.
I'm Kate Irwin. I'm a senior, and I've been playing softball since 2nd grade.
I'm Emily Pergosavo. I'm a senior, and I've been playing softball since I was about 5.
I'm Shannon Cormier. I'm a senior in high school, and I've been playing softball since I've been 5 years old.
I'm Sabina Hostick. I'm a senior, and I've also been playing softball since I was 5.
I'm Antonia Benina. I'm a senior, and I've been playing since 2nd grade.
I'm Maddie Von Vino. I'm also a senior, and I've been playing since I was 5.
I'm Emily Hartman. I'm a junior, and I've probably been playing since 5.
Yeah.
So you got-
We've all played together all of our lives, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it shows through, right? I mean, you've got that teamwork and that commitment to each other, which is fantastic. And got a lot of seniors, Coach.
We do.
So we get some underclassmen that are on here that you gotta maintain this, right? So certainly you've set a great precedent, just as those that came before you did as well. You guys have had a long history of success there. You continue to maintain that, which is fantastic. Certainly, congratulations, and I can't wait to see you guys win it again this year.
Thank you.
I didn't say this, but I just wanted to say one last thing. I'm embarrassing them, but that's perfectly fine. It's my
Right.
job. Emily Piergustavo was the Hawkmoth League MVP, unanimous league MVP this year. And Allie Atherton was the Boston Globe Division I Player of the Year in softball. So I thought it was pretty,
Wow.
just wanted to recognize that as well.
That's great. I know you're probably dying to leave right now and get off camera, but I'm going to put the two of you on the spot since you're the graduates here. How's your first year of college going?
I love it, yeah.
Yeah, it's going really
yeah.
well.
Yeah,
I like it a lot. Yeah.
good. And you felt prepared?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I
Excellent.
think it was an easy transition from Milford to college, so it's been going good. I'm excited for next semester. I go back on Sunday, so.
That's great to hear. And thanks for coming out on your break. We really appreciate it. And I know there's a few basketball players here as well. Kate's on her way to 1,000 points. Is that correct?
Joe, you never question the streak, man.
We don't want to talk about it.
No, but you guys are off to a great start too, so keep it up. You're making us really proud. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Coach. Congratulations.
Have a great night.
Thanks.
Take care.
Oh, almost forgot. We got gifts for you.
That's like Joey Walker.
Nice catch.
Look at that. That's support right there.
All right.
That's why you get a vice check.
Good. Yeah, there we go. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's not. Is that your plug?
No,
Thank you.
no, it usually is.
I know, that's why I asked.
I'd be in trouble tomorrow.
Did you ever see a girls' softball game? I don't know how you can hit the ball. That's how fast they throw.
Thank you very much.
Then you take.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night, guys.
Congratulations, ladies.
Congratulations again. Awesome job. Joe, you lost your place.
All right, we have invitation to speak next. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board? Mr. Rhodes? And Harold, I know you're familiar with our procedures around invitation to speak. So.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. My name is Harold Rhodes. Marcia and I live at 11 Janock Road. As you know, I served 6 years on the Milford Commission on Disability, and the last 3 of which I was served as chairman. And recently, Governor Baker appointed me to the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board. Our daughter, Rebecca, is a proud graduate of the 2006 class of Milford High School, beginning her attendance at Memorial in 1994. And Marcia and I are very happy to say that she is now gainfully employed. Yes, we're very proud to say she's gainfully employed. With that introduction, Mr. Chairman, please allow me to make just 5 points tonight. First, Mr. Chairman, I'm sure that you and the school committee will agree that our Milford community has no choice but to view the publicly available test scores for Milford High School in particular and the school district in general with great dissatisfaction and with much concern. As you are all quite well aware, in 2014, Milford High School was a level 2 rated school. In 2015, Milford High School dropped to a level 3 school, making it among the lowest 20% performing schools in the state. That continued into 2016 and into 2017, where Milford remains a level 2 school. Comparatively, our neighbors, Hopedale, Blackstone Valley, Medway, others, continue to perform at a level 1. Second, in 2017, Milford's attendance rate, absentee rate, chronic absenteeism remained greater than the average of all schools. In 2016, Milford's high school's 4-year graduation rate decreased. In 2016, Milford High School's annual dropout rate increased. In 2017, advanced placement test scores with scores 3 or higher also decreased. In 2017, Milford High School's transitional student growth percentiles in mathematics showed much lower growth when compared to the average of all other schools. And last, in 2017, Milford High School's progress towards narrowing proficiency gaps did not meet target for all students, for students with high needs, students with disabilities, and for white students. And these, Mr. Chairman, are just a small sample of these publicly available test scores. Second, Mr. Chairman, I am sure that you and the school committee know the damaging implications that these publicly available test scores are already having on our Milford community. Over the last several years, school choice has cost the town of Milford hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And through internet searches, the town of Milford appears to potential homeowners to not be the desirable community in which to live. As such, home and property values are suppressed. Consequently, for all of us in this room and all the homeowners in this community, Milford property tax rates go up for those of us who live here, and we all must pay increased property tax. But even worse, these poor test scores show firsthand that the education that many of our students receive is just simply inadequate and will substantially limit their future success. With my personal background as an advocate for persons with disabilities, I know personally the very difficult lives that students with disabilities and students with high needs who receive substandard education will have to endure for the rest of their lives. Third, Mr. Chairman, the Milford community has long been waiting for you and the school committee to publicly voice that these concerns will no longer be tolerated. And further, the well-worn excuses for these poor test scores will no longer be acceptable to this school committee. Fourth, Mr. Chairman, the parents of our 4,000 plus students and the residents of Milford expect you to clearly explain the current educational environment that our children face and what needs to be implemented to address the areas which are just not up to the highest education standards. Mr. Chairman, I urge you to hold multiple open community forums throughout 2018 in order that the Milford community can once again have the confidence in this school committee. Fifth and finally, Mr. Chairman, our Milford community is waiting for you and this school committee to publicly provide a comprehensive and definitive education plan. Serving as a guide for the required action, this education plan must include detailed, measurable objectives, a specific timeline for these improvements, as well as the consequences if these measurable objectives are not achieved. Mr. Chairman, members of the school committee, I hope that our Milford community will be able to see this plan in the very near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Of course, I'm glad to take questions, but I know that that's...
Yeah, there won't be any questions. And for those watching it at home, the indicators that were referenced by Mr. Rhodes are, as you know, are a frequent topic of conversation for the administration and for this board. So if anyone's interested, you can watch a replay of our last school committee meeting in December where we reviewed the district strategic plan. And we also discussed in detail each of the focus areas and the measurable objectives. So if anyone ever has any questions, anyone in the public ever has any questions, feel free to reach out to any member of this board or the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
All right, our next order of business is the school policy review.
So, excuse me. This is just a second reading of the policy that we already reviewed at our previous school committee meeting. I don't believe there were any recommendations that came forth to the subcommittee either during that meeting or subsequent to that meeting. So this is really just a second reading. I can certainly review, Mr. Chairman, it's up to you. We can either review the red line items as we did previous in the last meeting, or we can just move forward and ask for any feedback and take a motion if it's the pleasure of the committee.
Does anyone have any questions or concerns with the policy? I know Kathy handed out some information on the utility usage. And Kathy, did you say that's specific to when the facilities are being rented, or is that just a general monthly snapshot of?
Well, the heat is a 6-month analysis in terms of what it's costing per day for the 6 month. And that would include weekends for the average. And the utilities is based on a 12-month by building cost for electricity. So you could look at, just the high school alone, in the winter months, is averaging about $1,300 a day.
And just for clarity's sake, that's really part of the reason why we looked at the facility cost and us making an adjustment to the facility cost, very specifically to non-Milford groups. So we're looking to keep those fees the same. So if you look as an example, the Milford youth organizations, the cost would not change. Milford adult organizations, the cost would not change. The all other groups category, which would be all non-Milford groups by default, we are looking to make some small changes, and that's really to help as we see energy costs continue to go up. And that's the reason for that is to help recoup some of those costs.
And is that enough to recoup costs, or do we need a little flexibility with that?
I candidly, I think it's a step in the right direction. Do I think is it the, for lack of a better term, the silver bullet that corrects all of it? No, I don't. But I think it keeps us competitive. It continues to keep us competitive. This is a conversation we had during our policy subcommittee meetings, and Kathy spoke as well, saying this keeps us competitive with local areas. We're still probably on the low side. I think there's an opportunity where, as we go forward, it may be something that needs to be continued to be revisited on an annual basis, make sure we're still in the competitive marketplace and we're not pricing ourselves either too high or too low. But I think it's a good step to start to curb some of those expenses and offset them.
And Kathy, from a planning perspective, and when you get requests for facility rentals, do you try and coordinate it so that if you can, it's all happening in one school, so we're only heating that one school, or?
We do. In addition to that, we always try to support our Milford applications so that if we could guide them into a school that's already open and it would negate a cost for them, we make that recommendation. At the same time, it's difficult to turn the heat on if we're not charging a fee to support putting the heat on for a group that might be renting the facility, and we don't have any avenue to be able to charge. So this takes care of that issue that we have right now.
And that specifically pertains, we had a blanket part of the policy where as an example, for non-for-profits, we had just set up a blanket policy where we just didn't charge. There was no flexibility on that. This gives flexibility to the administration. Ultimately, they roll up through the school committee, but it gives them to help offset some of those costs and have some judgment being added into that as opposed to it being blanketed. And again, it's, if you want to rent the cafeteria of the high school on a 65-degree day in April, there's a different cost associated with that and you want to do it for half an hour than it is for, you want to rent out an entire building for, in the dead of winter when it's, as the weather's been over the last, not today, but over the weather's been over the last couple of weeks, as you would expect. We want to turn the heat on. We want to create a hospitable environment for anyone who's renting our facilities. There's a cost that's associated with that, and it's, it's difficult for us to have that burden be borne by the taxpayers solely in the town of Milford. We're trying to be cognizant and sort of weigh that out. And that's, again, that was part of that as well. And we've seen a spike in requests from that.
Do we have any other questions at all, comments on the policy? All right. So this is the second reading of that one, right? So
Yes,
we'll
it is.
move it to
We can move it to a vote if it's the will of the committee.
motion from Joe. Is there a second? Second from Jim. All those in favor? All right. And that was is that the only one? Scott, was there?
It was 3 that was all in one. They were all relating to facilities. One, just for the benefit of the public that may be watching, the first one was the use of school facilities fee schedule. The second one was use of school facilities, and the third one was Milford High School and Woodland Elementary turf field complex usage. The Woodland one, just as a reminder for those who may be watching from home, the Woodland Elementary School field complex, those are additions. It's really just some changes to the language that just encompass the Woodland one, whereas there was not previously a policy needed, as we didn't have a turf field at Woodland up until this year.
All right, thank you. So Craig, I believe you're up next. You need to give an update on the essential questions from the MCAS presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I provided with you in your packet, I'm not sure which question it was, I think it was question 4. What supports are in place and what additional supports can we implement for struggling learners? If you recall, we listed 10 essential questions that we had after we reviewed the MCAS information, 10 questions that we were wondering about. So it's my intent to go over at least one. I'll review another one with you today. But let's start with the first one. So for this one, Dr. McIntyre and I ran a leadership meeting a few weeks back, and we put this question out to all the principals of all the buildings, and we asked them basically 2 questions. What do you have in place right now for your struggling learners, and what additional supports can we implement as a district to kind of help students grow further? And I won't go through the whole thing with you. You have it here. But you can see some of the things that were listed included counselors at all various levels. You can see math intervention teachers, special ed specialists, teachers. They listed processes that we have in place, English language learner support, different classes that might be in place for struggling learners, tutoring services, different interventions, and maybe a program. I think there's some programs listed in here too, like the Alex program. So those are all things that we've had in place, or have put in place, or sorry, that our principals recognize as ways that we do help struggling learners. However, on the right side are things that they identified as things that we can put into place that could potentially help us support learners that are struggling. And I think if you look through that list, you'll see that a lot of it aligns with our budget presentation that we had last week, and you'll see a lot of the things that were on this list on the right ended up in the budget process. Things like instructional coaches, potentially a social worker at the elementary level. But things that aren't on there are things that aren't on the budget process, are things like professional development in different ways that we need to point our teachers when we're learning professionally, like common assessments. I'm taking a real hard look at common assessments and making sure that we have what we need to ensure that everybody's being successful at every single level. And I think one of the other big things was our SEL program and philosophy, making sure we have a consistent philosophy for SEL that goes pre-K to 12. So I don't know if anybody had questions about this document or anything in it. Certainly a lot here.
Yeah, so it's a lot here, and I did notice that just going through this, that that was, I'm glad you called the attention to it as well, and for the benefit of those maybe watching from home, that certainly a lot of the here's what we're doing right now, what's the next step. I think those are great questions, and I'm glad that you went building by building about this and not just said, listen, this is the needs of the district. You were very specific and targeted on that, and the fact that it does align back to it does align back to what the budget requests are. There's a lot of connectivity there. That was something that I certainly took away from last Saturday's budget review as well, where we spent certainly many hours reviewing those requests. When you think about that, I think, and we did this when we went through the budget policy. I like how this is connecting it back to both the quantifiable as well as qualifiable results,
Mhm.
and being able to continue to connect that back. The question I have is, so there's some of the comments. The questions that I have are, when you looked at the feedback, is this a consensus or was this the laundry list? Meaning that, so as an example, the Shining Star, early intervention, ELD, pre-K programming, was that feedback that you received from just the administrator? Was it feedback that you received from all the teachers? Was it some of the teachers? Was it, there were only 3 things asked from everybody you asked? Or was this sort of these were the most popular?
So, in terms of the new ones or the current?
The new ones. What's
I would say-
what's next?
Yeah, so I would say that came from a few different sources. One is, I think the principals and department heads did a lot of, thoughtful analysis, and that involved connecting with the teachers in the building, looking at the data, looking at just programmatic needs. And based on that, and it's kind of tied to the school improvement plans as well as the district strategic plan. They said, these are the next steps based on what we're seeing from these areas and some additional areas depending on the school.
Okay.
As part of the budget process, which is again where some of this comes out, the curriculum team leaders are involved in that too. So right down to the teacher level.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah, this is so, and that's what I wanted to just kind of.
This isn't people just spitballing in a room.
No, that I didn't expect that. It was
Yeah.
more of just so when I look at, as an example, Woodland Schools is almost almost a full page all on its own.
Mhm.
What I was just trying to understand was this, we went in to solicit feedback on it, and it's, well, I'm gonna chart what the requests are. And each request that came through as a result of that conversation is what's listed here, or was it, hey, I went in, I talked to Kevin, who's one teacher, I talked to Joe, who's another teacher, I talked to Jen, who's another teacher, and from each one of them, they all told me that what would be beneficial is early intervention. Joe also added this, but I didn't hear that from the other people, and it's sort of, so I sort of did it by consensus rather than.
Yeah, and I would say there's a collaborative process.
Yeah.
It's very data driven as well.
Great, perfect. That was what I was looking at. Thank you.
Yeah, I assume if you could bring this document to the next budget discussion as
Yeah.
well, and then we could probably quickly be able to identify what's on this year's budget and what's not. And one of the things that we talked about, I think we're going to discuss at that next budget meeting, the budget that we reviewed this past weekend was very, very reasonable. Obviously, it's still a work in progress, and we've got some decisions to make there. But one of the things that Kevin and I talked about was really looking at the next 3 to 5 years. And last year, we talked a lot about the level of funding for our schools, and to some extent, we are underfunded. And so if we're able to get additional funding for our schools, what would the district do with that funding over the next 3 to 5 years? So, what would you do from a programming perspective? What would you do from a staffing perspective? Like, let's see what that vision looks like, so that we can then start to socialize that throughout the community and say, these are the things that we can improve upon. These are the things that we'd like to do within our schools. We understand it's going to cost money, so we want to start having those conversations to see if the community values these things as well.
Okay.
So, thank you for putting all this together. I guess my question is, how will this become connected to either the strategic plan or maybe goals of a department? Because while some of the things definitely connect to budget, some of them, like review, revise, the START process, that's not necessarily.
That's connected to the strategic plan, though, directly.
So the things in here will be rolled out and prioritized, because it's a lot. You may not be able to accomplish all this.
Absolutely, yeah. So a lot of
this will
that is like
connect to the
embedded in
strategic plan.
that broader document I shared in December.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
But it is a lot, I agree.
Well, yeah, so it seems like you'd want to go through and prioritize which items are connected to the strategic plans and the timelines and that.
Yep.
So, you'll be able to measure it.
To that point, one thing that came through from a document that was provided to us through that budget process in our budget meeting that we had last Saturday, feels like it was a lot longer ago, is exactly to Jen's point. Each item that was put forth for request was actually letter coded.
Mhm.
Number one, from a priority perspective, and number two, connecting back to one of the
Strategic levers.
strategic
Mhm.
levers, or multiple in some cases. I mean, there were some of the items on there that actually hit all four categories. I would like to, I think just for consistency piece, I think it'd be great if we started doing that with each piece that comes back like this, and start having that really connected back of, hey, here's what we're seeing from a tier 1, tier 2 priorities. And number two, here's how it connects back to that strategic plan. If we're continuing to draw that line and that clarity, I think it keeps, it creates that level of clarity of what direction we're headed, number one. And number two, it continues to connect the dots on everything and keeps us focused, I think, as well as we go through our policy and budget process.
All right, the second question that we had hoped to, what we started talking about, and I don't want to say start's the wrong word, we continue to talk about, was how does our time on math instruction and instructional practice in math classes affect students' performance, and what can we do to support our teachers' efforts? I think we're working hard on this question, and I think what we're finding is, you know, time is one of the problems. One of the things that there's never enough time in the day, and there's never enough time in the day for, it could be math, could be reading, could be language arts, but we certainly identified that's tremendous drop-off in the amount of math instruction that students get starting in fifth grade as opposed to fourth grade. But I think one of the questions we need to ask is what does good math instruction look like? And I think the way we're going to see improvements is if we identify what that good math instruction looks like, and we get teachers talking about it on a more regular basis, and we're not so concerned about following an everyday math program to the T, or name a program, and we start empowering teachers to make reasonable decisions based on assessments. And I think what we're lacking in math time, we're also lacking in the time for teachers to get together and do that kind of work. So I think as we move forward and we start talking about how we're going to tackle it, we have to figure out ways to get our teachers in the room to have those discussions. And I have a similar document, I just didn't share it with you yet, because we are still working on it. So, to be fair, it's, when I say it's similar, the things that we asked them were just that question, and then how we can continue to support teachers. And some of the things that were identified so far are, there are coaches on there as things that we can do to help, professional development opportunities, and then changing of philosophies, you know, calling out best practices, like I said, and working with teachers to promote that to other classrooms. So,
Any
more to
questions
come.
on that? So, that makes a lot of sense as far as the coaching and the professional development. I know it's going to be a topic of conversation during the contract negotiations as well. As far as the schedule is concerned, that seems like something that could potentially be somewhat of an easy, well, not an easy fix, but that's something that we could probably focus on and accomplish a lot quicker than some of these other initiatives. So are we actively looking at the middle school schedule? And I know Josh had some ideas about the high school schedule.
Yeah, it's something that, I know Nancy and her team looked at last year, and we're going to ask her to look at as we head into the spring again this year. Around, I think, a few topics. Math is one of them, but also just the general use of time in the day. And we did a kind of a whole review of the elementary schools a couple of years ago, and I think it had a positive impact. So we're going to continue those discussions.
And more specifically, is that ASE period and then the STEAM period, right? So is there better use of that time? I'd be curious to know what some of those discussions.
I would say with the STEAM period, it's the implementation of the Project Lead the Way curriculum, and I think you're going to really start to see a lot of great activities happening there. What are the topics in middle school, Craig? You know off the top of
I don't remember, I'm sorry.
He's been looking at it from grades 3 through
He's got a lot
through
on
high
his
school.
plate right
I
now.
don't remember.
Through high school. But we're trying to connect Project Lead the Way, starting in Woodland, through Stacy, through the high school, and at the high school level, they'll become actual courses. And I know Josh and his team are looking at implementing some potential courses either for next year or the 1920 school year. This sounds like a long time away, but it's only 2 years away.
Jen?
I think just to your point, Craig, and I'm glad you mentioned it about no matter which math curriculum, which package program we use, we want to make sure that when we look at the budget, we talked about the coaching model, we talked about some math curriculum leadership. I think that, at the end of the day, what we want is to help teachers identify what are the absolute must-dos in terms of curriculum areas that are non-negotiable, in terms of what the state standards are asking for. And, I do think I think we still have teachers, not just in Milford, but everywhere, that like to teach what they like to teach, and I think it's great if you can enrich a third grader by running out exponents and factoring in things that they're not part of the assessed curriculum anymore. So I think the more we can support through the professional development, like we talked about in the budget meeting, and really get teachers thinking about what are the absolute must-do topics combined with the higher level thinking that they're expected to be able to roll out. I think that is a huge shift, especially thinking like in a K-8 model for teachers. So I think
And thinking of transfer, not just skill to skill and day to day, and here's a set of problems that we're going to work on today. Here's the homework that goes with it. Come in and review. We do the same thing and do it over and over and over again. I think we have kids that are successful in that model. However, when it comes time for an assessment like an MCAS, where they have to apply the skills that they've learned through the year, I think in that model it's not working.
Right.
So how do we get there?
I think that's another great topic to revisit through the budget meetings, whether that's through consistent PD or through a curriculum leadership position. We need to have someone who can help lead that charge for staff. So thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you.
Mike, did you?
Yes. Craig, thank you. You mentioned a couple of great topics, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have, I'm not saying you don't need process and you don't need guidelines, because you do. But you used a great word, empower. We need to empower not only our administrators, we need to empower our educators. Those are the people that are in that classroom with those group of students every single day. And, I've been on a long time, and we've always talked that every single year the classrooms change, the student changes, and the way they learn changes. So we have to be able to empower our teachers that are in that classroom every single day to do what they think is right, to get the best for every single student in that classroom. So that's a great word, empower. We use it in industry all day long. They're the frontline people. They're the frontline people. And you use the word communicate. You can never communicate enough from the top all the way into the classrooms. And along with communication, you use best practice. And what happens to us, because we're human, when we start to talk about best practice, the people that maybe take it the wrong way, it's almost not like it's an insult, but they're not doing a good job. It has nothing to do with that at all. We're saying, from the observation standpoint, we see that this really, really works, and we'd like to carry this through the district or carry it through a grade. It's not an insult, and don't take it that way. We're trying to, all of us together, through communication and best practice, we're trying to just improve everything. And that's, when you talk about the philosophy, that's the hard thing to change, is that, please don't take it that wrong. We're trying to make everybody's job easier, through best practices. So, but I just wanted to comment on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah. Good.
You good?
I'm good. Keep going.
I was just going to stare at you for a while.
If you want to keep going, we can.
That wasn't awkward at all, Jeff.
It's the tie. It's that suit. I can't keep my eyes off it.
That's about 6 today.
I was right.
More about it.
Kathy, you're up next.
I have for the committee this evening's 8 warrants for your approval. The first warrant is in the amount of $30,844.27.
A motion from Jim, seconded by Jen. All those in favor?
The second warrant is in the amount of $371,960.58.
Motion from Scott, seconded by John. All those in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $145,256.86.
Motion from Joe, seconded by Mike. All those in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $16,998.39.
Motion from Mike, seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $338,488.48.
Motion from John, seconded by Scott. All those in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $4,550.45.
Motion from Joe, seconded by Jen. All those in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $3,315.54.
Motion from Mike, seconded by Jen. All those in favor?
And the last warrant is in the amount of $14,746.43.
Motion from John, seconded by Scott. All those in favor?
There is a list of course reimbursement for the committee's approval this evening in the amount of $6,312.
A motion from Jim, seconded by Joe. All those in favor?
The committee also has a list of the latest appointments from our previous meeting. And we do have gifts this evening.
We do. We have several gifts. The first gift is from Dairy Queen in the total of $225 for the Science Olympiad. Should I just go through them all and then vote them all at once? Okay. The next gift is from Milara, also for the Science Olympiad, in the amount of $500. The next gift is from Merrick and Petra Oliva in the total of $500 to Milford High School. We then have several gifts from the Blackstone Valley Education Foundation. We have one gift in the amount of $2,390 for the Dynamic Cart Grant. We have another from Blackstone Valley Education Foundation in the amount of $985 for a prosthetic hand. We then have a gift from Blackstone Valley Education Foundation in the amount of $500 for Girls in Trade for the guidance department, I assume. And we have another from the Blackstone Valley Education Foundation in the amount of $500 for STEM for the guidance department as well. So several very generous gifts from a number of local donors. We really appreciate all of that. Do we have a motion to accept the gifts? Motion from Scott, seconded by John. All in favor? Is that all, Kathy?
Yes, that's it.
Thank you. So we have subcommittee updates. Jim, you want to give an update on marketing and communication?
Yes, just a couple of things. One of the big things that we're focused on is the I Love Public Schools message. So the committee talked about how we were going to pull that together, what we were going to have for resources. We started talking about the content behind that and some scene transitions, who's going to be involved. We talked about faculty, students, and what the message was surrounding that. So we also discussed the timeline associated with that and when we think we'll be able to launch that. In addition, two other elements that I wanted to bring up. There's a anti-anxiety seminar that's going to be coming around, which is hosted by a nationally recognized speaker. Talking about anxiety, how to deal with it, what it is, and its presence in our culture. And then in addition to that, I want to recognize Pete Boucher as being selected as one of the top 10 ADs in the state. He's being recognized as well. So, and Kevin, if you want to add anything to that, go right ahead.
No, I think that kind of covers it. We also talked about some targeted marketing we're going to do to some families as well, but yeah, I think you covered it. It's great.
Okay.
I just had a question. For the I Love Public Schools, is that like a national campaign?
That's
or is
the I
that
Love the Milford
something-
Public Schools.
It's I Love Milford Public Schools.
I'm sorry.
So it's
What did I say? I love public schools?
You did.
Oh,
You might
okay.
I do.
Close.
I'm a big public school person.
So that's something that our marketing subcommittee came up with on its
Yes,
own.
actually, so I will say that Kevin did conceptualize that, and you know, we're supporting that concept.
Okay.
So it is I Love Milford Public Schools,
Okay.
and so we're in the process of putting together the kind of, I guess, the scene compilation, like what it will look like,
so
the timeline.
so we kicked it off at the beginning of the year with the presentation that we did at the opening day for teachers, and a lot of those folks kind of did the videotape, and we pushed that out. This is like the next phase.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
sounds great.
One of the last things I'll close with is we did talk about trying to put the superintendent in a more visible role with the community, so we are bandying about a couple of other talk show-ish type things. Not to steal Kevin's talk soup thunder.
SUP.
Yes.
Right, which is very creative.
You're gonna become.
He's so proud of
Be
it.
branded. There's
I
someone.
love it.
You have to brand that somehow.
You do.
Talk soup.
And by the way, e-call, they've got some questions for you about trademark.
Yeah.
It's fine.
When we throw an O in, there's an issue.
Yeah.
It's fine.
There's
There's a lot of good things
no one with
happening.
soup. All right, thanks, Jim. So future agenda items, do we have any future?
I have one. Early this evening, we heard an awful lot of what we do wrong instead of what we do right. So I have an ask that we bring the high school principal in and give us an overview of all the things that are going on at the high school that are fantastic. And I want the general public to know all the good things that are going on at the high school level, all the great things that go on in the district. I'm not going to ask that we bring every principal in, but I think from what was said, I think it's important that we bring high school principal in and give us a high-level view of all the great things that go on, and maybe some of the concerns that he sees. So if you could make that arrangement, I would greatly appreciate it.
He's going to be on the 18th anyways, Mike.
He
I'm
is?
going to add that to what he speaks to.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, that'll be great and easy, because he's here anyways.
Scott, forget. Mr. Chairman, certainly echo Mike's comments, but then also, we've received, I know Kevin's received some requests, Letty's received some requests, I think some other members may have received some requests, as well as I have as well. We've got some community members that are asking us to at least look into and revisit some of our policies around busing. We've looked at this in the past as well. Busing, bus stops, specifically as it relates to private ways and roads as they are in town, and some concerns over some student safety and locations. So I would just ask if we can, with the support of the committee, that we move that forward into policy subcommittee for review at our upcoming meeting, and we can start working with Kathy at least to start to get some of the preliminary impact on that. If that's at the pleasure of the committee.
Yeah, is that a policy thing though? Is that a
It is.
Vendetti?
It's a policy thing for us. So we have a policy very specifically. We have a policy that says that we don't enter into private ways to initiate bus stops. So as an example, we have several private roads in town. Some are longer than others, where we don't have bus stops that are on those private ways. That's part of our policy. So it would actually take two things. One is the cost analysis with Vendetti to that point, and then the other part is it would initially take a policy review from us as well.
Yeah, and I only ask.
So it's two pieces of it.
Yeah, and we can talk about it in more detail at the policy level. I only ask because a bus can't pull into my driveway, right? It's a
Correct.
private way.
Yep.
So can they pull in, even if we said, yeah, go
Well, I think
go
what they're
ahead.
referring to is apartment complexes,
It's
condo
private
complexes.
roads. Yeah, not
Right.
not. But to
That's
your
what-
point,
that's what the particular question
and that
is.
was part of the conversation when the community member brought it to my attention and was asking the question. That was part of my dialogue back with them was. A private way may be viewed as a driveway. It just doesn't necessarily, they may not feel that way. It really is sort of just an elongated driveway. And to your point, yeah, we're not gonna start sending buses down people's driveway because some people's driveways are really long. But that's really what their question pertains to, is private roads rather than necessarily a driveway. But yes, it's really just a review of it, and it's the cost benefit analysis. Not that there's necessarily a proposed change, just how do we review it? Is it something what's the feasibility of it?
Jim?
I was just gonna say, as an example, some of the new housing developments, like a Zane Ridge is a private road, so, right now it precludes the going down there, I believe, so.
Yep. That, Milford Country Club, the ones over in Laurelwood.
Silver Hill Estates.
Silver Hill Estates,
Village.
all of those condo complexes, those are all private roads.
Yeah.
So it does prohibit them.
Okay.
And I know one of the concerns, using Zane Ridge as an example, one of the concerns is the bus stop is up the top of the street,
Mhm.
and it's right on Route 16 at rush hour traffic,
Yep.
and kids are kids.
Yep, and we've got some concerns. The initial concern came to me just for the benefit of transparency. The initial concern came actually from the country club.
Yeah.
And part of that is there's actually no safe place for them to stand. And again, not as busy as 16, but Asylum Street's pretty busy too.
Yeah, and then you add
and people come
snowbanks.
gunning down those roads.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the preface, what sort of prompted this.
Okay.
So it was at their request, and I think it's understandable to look for feasibility for us,
Yep.
especially as we're seeing, to John's point, Zane Ridge being a growing number of those coming up, starting to come up, is the time to review it.
All right. Any other future agenda items? No. Any old business? No old business. All right, so we do have an executive session tonight, right? Jerry's coming in.
Yep.
So we do have an executive session tonight to discuss the MTA contract negotiations and will not return to regular session. It does require a roll call vote. We'll start down here with Jim.
Yes.
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 Yep.
Yes.
No, I will recuse myself.
Yes.
All right, so we have 6 yes and 1
Recusal.
And
Motion to adjourn.
do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion from John, seconded by Scott. All those in favor? Everyone have a good night.